I know you said something a while ago that was really helpful to me, and it was don't compare.
Yes.
But I struggle with it because, I was taught to compete, to
Right.
do the best, to be the best, to make straight A's, and so it's hard not to get into that competitive posture.
Okay.
In all kinds of areas, including spiritual.
Sure. Let me give you some thoughts about that. You can get straight A's without having to compete against anybody. Just get straight A's. Okay? You can be the best of what you can possibly do without having to compare that to someone else's behavior. You can enter contests in which competition is one of the rules. You are trying to do better than someone else. I mean, the nature of such a contest is comparison. Okay? And that's one kind of game that you can play. But you don't have to live your life that way. Okay? When you're used to doing and used to looking at things that way, it comes up spontaneously. Sure it does. And then it's a question of deciding whether you want to keep that. If you don't, then for a while, you'll have to consciously make a choice every time it comes up. And again, part of it, the reason anybody does any kind of behavior is there's a motivation behind it. The motivation is love, or its negative effect, which is anger. Or the motivation is power, which is effectiveness in that sense, and its negative effect, which is fear. These are the things that motivate. Okay? Now, somebody can compete because they love the thrill, they love the charge. It really excites them. And somebody else can compete because they're afraid of losing. And afraid of perhaps either the rejection or the helplessness that will result from the losing. Okay? Sometimes we get combinations of fear and anger in different things, depending on how we were brought up. The first thing to examine then is, why am I comparing? Or why am I competing? What is the driving force behind this ongoing habit? Because if the habit doesn't have a driving force, it doesn't exist. So, two ways to change a habit are to provide an alternative way of accomplishing the same thing using the same driving force, but one that works better, or unhook the driving force. So if the desire to compete is to gain parental favor, it's amazing how that can be there even when the parents are gone, okay? Because it's such a habit, then that's a fear, because the real motivation behind that is the fear of losing that favor. You can adjust your thinking so that doing something different will gain that favor, or doing it in a different way, or making a different interpretation of competing or comparing. Those all work. Or you can remove the fear. One of the ways to remove fear is to face it. Hey, suppose I lost everything from here on out. Then what? What would be different? Maybe not much. Maybe it's not as big a consequence as you used to think, especially if the parents are not around. Okay? Well, it would change how I think about me. Well, change how you think about yourself. For instance, a couple examples. As many of you know, I never make mistakes. Okay? I do sometimes have experiences that I would rather not have, but I never make mistakes. Okay? I'm also never wrong. Even when I appear wrong, I'm right. Okay? Now, it might not appear that way to other people, but it always appears that way to me. Well, if I have this kind of an idea, that whatever I do, no matter how badly it seems to mess up, was the right thing to do. Therefore, I did the right thing. Then I'm never down on myself, and I'm never comparing myself to some other standard. 'Cause I'm always right, even when I'm wrong. So there's no fear of being wrong, because I'm never wrong. That's one way to handle such a thing. I just want to throw out some creative ideas. Okay, you might find your own. But see, so the fear's gone, because there's nothing to fear anymore. Reinterpretation, or in another case, altering the motivation. If it is too difficult to stop the comparing and competing, well, then give it a positive motivation. I'm going to do this so that I will learn how to be better and better, and so I can help the other people that I'm competing with become better and better. Now you've changed it from one of fear, of loss, to one of positive gain for everybody, and kept the same practice. Only now you're turning it into something more beneficial. See? Change the motivation, or change the interpretation. And I do not promise it'll be easy, regardless of which way you go. Yes.
So a lot of times people say that hula competitions aren't good because they're promoting the competition, but if you reinterpret it to the learning process that the children go through as they're, or the adults, whoever, are experiencing along the way to get there.
Sure. If you interpret it as the learning process, the opportunity to express themselves, to show the audience this beautiful dance, and one different interpretation of it, if that's your focus, you go there, you're not trying to beat anybody. You're doing there to dance. And a lot of Hawaiians do that. Okay, and the teams, the halaus. And they don't care whether they get a plaque or something like that. It's not why they're there. Okay? They're using it as an opportunity to share their spirit, to share their talent, to share their joy. So then let somebody call it a competition. So what? Okay? From a Hawaiian point of view, probably would be better to have a different name. That would make a lot of the Hawaiians feel better. But some of them are already doing it that way.
So you'd say that if you need to do something, sometimes you don't need to have an exam for it, like to have a piece of paper on the wall to say you can do it.
Of course not. Unless you feel you require that to give you confidence to do what you want to do. That's the only time it does any good. There are some games that are played in society where the people who set up the rules for that game say, you have to have this piece of paper. And then it's up to you to decide whether you want to play their game enough to get that piece of paper and follow their courses and all that kind of thing. And then once you've done that, do whatever you want to do. So, but if you think of it as a game, and if you want to play somebody else's game, you play their rules. But you also learn their rules as well as you can to see whether there's ways to play their rules differently. Okay? And that might give you more freedom than you thought was possible.